Welcome back to Flowvia Automations, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how you can set up Shopify webhooks in n8n using no code at all. So let's get into it. Alright, so the first step is we're going to kind of just quickly go through my Shopify account. This is a developer store. If you search up Shopify Sandbox, developer store or anything like that in Google, as long as you have an account with them, which is completely free, they'll allow you to have a developer sandbox store where you can test and do anything, which is super nice. But yeah, this is what my store kind of looks like. It's made for a snowboarding kind of store. We can quickly kind of go through some of the sections. As you can see, the orders here, the products, you can kind of go through all the collection, the customers. They pre-fill all of this data for you, which is super nice, and then you can kind of play around with it. But yeah, this is what it's going to be looking like. And then obviously we have our n8n on this side as well. So we're going to clean this up, make it a little easier to work with, put it all in one screen. And because the first step we're going to want to do is select our webhook node. So in n8n, we're going to go ahead and get the webhook node. So once you have that there, it's going to pop up here. We're going to keep it to test URL for now. I know if you've watched any of my previous videos, I always like to do production, but we'll keep it in test for now. Make sure you change the method to post. And then from here, we're actually going to go back into our Shopify store and we're going to go to where we need to set up that webhook. So if you go down to here in settings, it's going to take you into the settings tab. And what we want to focus on is going to be the notifications tab. So if you go into the notifications tab at the very bottom, it's going to be something called webhooks. So this is where we're going to create our webhook. You can select create one. And then the event is what you want your webhook to trigger. If you obviously had something already in mind you wanted to do, you can go ahead and do that. If you're just completely testing and following along, then I'm going to be doing the order payment. So anytime pretty much an order is paid and processed, I want the webhook to send the information to me into my n8n, and then from there we can do whatever we want. And then we're going to keep the format to JSON. There's XML as well, but for n8n reasons, we're going to keep it to JSON. And then now for this URL, it's asking for the URL of your webhook. And that's when we can go back into our n8n and we can get our webhook. If you see our webhook here, it's a little long. The path is annoying. We can simply just delete that and rename it to order payment, because that's what this one is called. We want this webhook to be for all the order payments. So we can change that there. And once we have that, we can click on the test URL and copy it onto our copy it over to here and paste it into the Shopify webhook. Now when you have this, we're going to change the API version to the latest. I don't really think this matters too much. You can choose any version that your Shopify store is built on. But yeah, we're going to click the latest one and we're going to select save. Now when we have our save selected, we're going to go back into our Shopify webhook and we want to test this out. So we're going to quickly go listen for a test event, go back into our Shopify webhooks, and we're going to send the test. Once we go back into here, perfect. We can see that it's been executed successfully and we have some test data that we can work with. Now that we have it here, we're going to pin this data just so we can make sure it doesn't get erased once we're testing with it. And we'll quickly go through of what it sent us over. So it's going to send us over an example of an order payment. So you can kind of literally see the API called Shopify order. If you go down, it's going to give us some simple information like the contact email, the currency, the price, the subtotal, and it should show us some of the items that were purchased as well. So if you keep going down, you'll see all of the discounts, preset money, pretty much just a bunch of test information. Shopify, what they will do on these tests, they'll send you like everything filled in. So most orders won't even have all of this information, but they send that all over to you so you can kind of test and work with whatever you need. So if we click over to our schema tab, we can see that it's all allocated here. And from there, we can now manipulate and work with the data. So some things that a lot of businesses will use, and reason why this is actually useful, is that they'll have their orders set up on Shopify, but they'll actually have their bookkeeping dealt with somewhere else, whether that's in their Microsoft Azure or any of their CRM platforms. They want to take their metrics and kind of do something with them. So this is a really good proposition to businesses. So what we can do is take that data and we can either use AI or run a bunch of different codes on it to see what we can do. For our instance, we're going to actually be using Baserow. So Baserow is a really nice data management database. So to upload any information. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the orders and we're just going to try to upload some of that information to Baserow. So we already have that webhook set up nice and easy. If you want to click away, you can go ahead. But what we're going to do from here is actually send off that information. So what we're going to grab is our Baserow node, and we're going to select create a row. Once we do this, we want to make sure we have all of the correct databases selected, and we want to make sure you get the right database name, which for us is going to be the credit card statements, and we're going to be selecting with the tables. I'll make this a bit easier to see. Perfect. All right. So over here, we're going to be dealing with the transactions table. We can add in a couple more rows here as well. Right now, I just have the name, the price, and any notes. But if we scroll down, we can see if there's anything else that we want to add in. So example, like the customer email. So we can do a single line text and say customer email. Create. All right, and we'll keep it at those things for now, just to make it nice and easy. Instead of name, we're going to say order ID, just because it doesn't really have an order name. All right, so we're going to save all of that. And then once we go into here, we're going to add the fields that we just kind of created. So the first one being order ID, we're going to add in the price, and we're going to add in the customer email. So if we go back up to here, order ID is usually at the top. So we can grab from the body here is the ID. That way we can always reference which payment this was in Shopify. If we go down, we can grab the contact email. Perfect. And obviously you can add more fields or whatever you had in yours. And then for the price, we're going to say the current subtotal price. So now that we have all of those things mapped into our database, we can quickly execute the step. And if we see here, we can see the order ID was populated, the price, and the customer email. So really nice and simple how to set up these webhooks. It's a lot more easy than people make it out to be. But yeah, you just want to go into your settings, notifications, set up the webhook here, and do everything that you want. A key thing to note is that once you're ready to actually use this workflow in production, you want to select it to active, but once you switch it to active, you actually have to go back into your webhook and select a production URL, because now this is still set up to the webhook test, as you can see here, but we want to grab the production URL, which is nice that they make it easy. You can just edit it here and just paste in our production as well. So now when it goes to actually using it in production, we can actually go ahead and test this out for you real quick. So if we go back into our store, we can go to orders, we can create an order, we can just search up anything. So we'll add that into there. And then we're going to collect payment and say mark as paid. Reason why we do that is because, like I said, our webhook is set up for order payment. So this is only going to trigger each time the order is paid. So that's why we're marking it as paid. And if we go back into our executions tab, you can see all the tests that we were doing, but you can actually see that there was also a production execution that was just done. And if we go into it, we can see everything was done and selected over. So if we go back into our Baserow, there was that new ID with the price that we just put in for that one snowboard. We never added in a customer or an email, so that never populated, but we can do that as well to show you guys one more example. So I'll go back into our orders. We're going to create an order. Select the snowboard. If we can type today. We'll select a couple items here to see if the subtotal changes. We are going to add a customer. So we'll just select the first example customer that pops up, and we will collect payment. So we're going to mark as paid. Once we select mark as paid, it should go send it over to our webhook as well. So we can just kind of wait here and we can see that it has executed and sent everything off. Go back into our Baserow and there is the order ID with the subtotal and that customer email. So yeah, that's pretty much a full walkthrough of how you can set up Shopify webhooks in n8n. If you guys have any other questions or want to see anything for future videos, please leave them down below. But other than that, if you guys like and subscribe, it goes a long way for me making these videos. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great day.